So let's start our discussion today. And okay, I will bring this PowerPoint first. All right. So I'm gonna start from introduction of our seminar today. And my name is Yano Prastya. I'm a PhD student at University of Missouri, United States. I'm also a researcher in Indonesian Institute of Sciences and the coordinator for Basic Income Quarantine Network in the Big in Indonesia. We have built in the Big since 2017 and trying to affiliate with the Basic Income Earth Network. So I'm glad to be here and thank you for everyone who helped us to make this discussion happen. So why we need the universal basic income? So we can start from a very basic question. What is basic income? So from the definition from the Congress of PN, we have a definition like a basic income is a periodic cash payment unconditionally delivered to all on an individual basis without mean price or work requirement. So there is a 5 characteristic of basic income. First is individual, and then periodic, cash payment, universal, and unconditional. So periodic means it's paid at regular interval. For example, every month. That's a very common and very usual periodic for basic income. And then cash payment. So those who receive it can decide whatever they want to spend their money. So it's not a voucher or coupon or card. So this is the real cash of fresh money from government to the citizen. And then it's also universal. It's paid to all and unconditional. So without a requirement to work or to demonstrate willingness to work. So that's a definition or basic definition of basic income. That's so imagine that I give everybody here, say ₦1,000,000 a month, and not just everybody in the room, but also your parents, your friends, your neighbors. So everyone get ₦1,000,000 per month, and imagine what would you do if you didn't have to worry about your income. So that's the basic idea of universal basic income. And that's interesting, like this idea can unite politicians from the left to the right and potentially will fixing our broken social security system. So what kind of the idea could unite so different thinkers and activists such as Thomas Paine, like in the US, who believe the government as a solution for the most of our problem. On the other hand, we see this picture like Elon Musk or Rutger Bregman, a Dutch historian, and also Milton Friedman, who believe that free market is a solution for our problem. So there is a joke, or there is a slogan that say UBI is not left. It's been like socialism or right, like a capitalism, but UBI is a forward. So many thinkers and historians have been dreaming about this idea for centuries as well. So some people call this idea with different name like citizen dividend, unconditional cash transfer, and people also say like this one is free money for everyone. So that sounds good and sounds crazy at the same time, like utopian fantasy, something that too good to be true in reality, right? But in our history, there is something called progress, and utopia have a tendency to coming true. For example, like how we end the slavery, the freedom of speech, the gender equality, and how we got our nation independence. That's all start from utopian idea, from a dream at the beginning, and all those dreams then comes through. So that's why, like when people say this idea is utopian, we have to look at our history that all the utopian things tend to be true when it's happened. Also, the most importantly, like a few decades, 30, 40 years, it has become more than just an idea. So slow but sure, the UBI has become a proven idea because of some real experiment all across the world. This is not only just experiment, but the scientific experiment. So there has been many experiments from Namibia in Kenya, in Africa to India. That's why we have Dr. Sarat Devala here. He will talk more about his experience with UBI in India. Also, we have the Finland that just finished the first year report this year. In Ontario, in Alaska, and others. And I think in this year we have Stockton in California, and Germany also will start their first experiment on UPI. So time and time we realize that UBI is not a favor, but it's a right. So we can see in the map there is many countries and places that trying to implement experiment on UPI. And also there's some place like Alaska, they have start this experience since 1982 and until now. But first of all, before we talk more about UBI, and I believe that Dr. Sarat, Mr. Raja, and Mr. Budiman will explain much, much better than me, I just want to share and discuss two things here. First, we'll talk about the work environment. And secondly, we'll talk about the poverty condition. What's happening in our life today and in our society. So I've been reading UBI since I started studying in the US, like back in 2016. So as someone who studied rural sociology, I always see that the world is changing. Like the population from rural is always declining all from the world and also in the US. And also the technological advancement is also make everything more faster and easier right now. And the technology is expanding exponentially. So we have to rethink about our work environment, our employment, and the poverty condition in our society right now. So we have 4 types of work from the Oxford study. The first work is more cognitive, and then manual that use our body or physics, and then routine. They have a guidance, exact guidance, and non-routine work. It's more like when we drive a car in the streets, so that's a kind of non-routine. So taxi driver or Gojek driver, that's kind of the non-routine work because you have to adapt with the traffic in the street. But what happened is right now, all those types of work here from cognitive, manual, routine, and non-routine is already replaced by the computer, machine learning, AI. Like for driving, now Google and Tesla have an autopilot or driverless car, driverless truck for the logistic things. So in the future, all of these types of work will disappear, and this killing our ability as a human being, our sensitivity, our art, our psychology as a human become more dependent to the technology. So I bring here data from Oxford study that's very famous for universal basic income. We can see here in 2010, the analysis from the Oxford about the probability of computerization. We can see that how vulnerable or how susceptible are jobs to computerization. So we can see in the right here, like 47% of total US employment is at risk or vulnerable with the computerization. This kind of job, like in the red, is like sales and related, and then office administrative support, also like services and production, transportation. Those all types of work will be replaced by automation and AI and computerization. And another data here, we can see that from 1980s or 1870 to 2000 that we have been working progressively less and less hours. So compared to maybe our grandfather who working on the farm in the rural areas, that they're working from morning to next morning, but now we're just working like from 7 to 5 or 8 to 4. So we are really working less and less hours. So who is make our productivity keep going? So that's what technology does in our society. They make our they replace our ability to do something, and then they keep our economic growth. And in the future, like Jack Ma said, the Alibaba CEO, that we will work maybe just 4 hours a week. And this is just a little example from the Alaska permanent fund dividend, one sample of the basic income implementation that we can see here in Alaska from 1982 to 2015 or 16, that they got a dividend from the oil business to all the citizens there in Alaska, state of one state from United States. And they have oil, so they can use this oil, the dividend, and share to all the people in Alaska. And from the study that just published last year, 2018, from Jonas Marinescu, so they find very interesting that the basic income of transfer payment from government directly to the citizen has no effect to the employment rate. It means like if somebody or if the state give money to the citizen, free money for everyone, people not people still working. People not then just go spend their money for recreation or just spend money for alcohol or doing some fun things, but they still working. And in the right figure, like a right chart, we can see like the part-time job is also increasing since the government gave money for everyone in the Alaska. It's mean like people have more freedom to choose what kind of job they want. And yeah, there is a increasing in the part-time job. Well, they have option now if they don't like to do this job, so they can move to another job or something like that. And the poverty, the second thing that I want to mention here, that maybe some of you already heard about this, that we always have stigma for poor people or for the poverty, that poverty is lack of character, or poverty is like a culture or mentality, psychological things. But from Rutger Bregman, the Dutch historian, says that poverty is not lack of character. This is lack of cash, because that's what happened, that a lot of poor people don't have any cash in their hand. They can't do anything. Even we give them like a lot of social security, like this card for access for education, for training, for other else. But if they don't have any cash to go to somewhere place, like for transportation or for eat tomorrow, then they will have a very poor decision for their life. So poverty is lack of cash, not like lack of character. So that's why we don't address this problem directly to bring the cash without any complex bureaucracy to the poor people. So from the study in Namibia and also from India, after this, Dr. Sarat will explore more experience from India. So people will feel many positive effect and benefit and outcome from the UBI experiments. Like the crimes goes down, stress goes down, birth weights improve, health and nutrition improve, entrepreneurship increase, and so on and so on. So all this positive outcome from the experiment of universal basic income resulting from the experiment in Namibia, in India, in Manitoba, Canada, in Alaska. But still, we need more experiment to prove this data or this outcome, especially in Indonesia or India, because we have different characteristics with developed country. Like we have a millions population and millions problem that we're facing every day. So this is the last slide for me. Like why we built this network in basic income guarantee in Indonesia, and also try to connect with others country network. We feel like if we can support this idea, then we will have something new in our future economic, that we believe that technology will still improve exponentially, but our ability will, as a human, will decrease because we don't have any place in the job market. So this is maybe 11 reasons why we support universal basic income. Like we will help us to rating how and why we work. Like if we don't like our job right now, so we can move to another job that we like because we believe that next month we still have uh, money for it, for food, for clothes, and for housing. So we never worry about our future, and it's also will contribute to better working condition, help reducing inequalities, and also strengthen our democracy, and it will end extreme financial poverty as well. So that's why we join a seminar and discussion today, and we will talk more about this with Dr. Sarat, Mr. Raja, and Mr. Budiman. And as coordinator for Indonesian Basic Income Guarantee Network, I invite you all, everybody in Indonesia, to join our network and trying to develop our pilot project in Indonesia and also share with the other network in the world. So that's introduction from me, and I think Dr. Sarat will elaborate more about the experience in India and what Indonesia can learn from it. Okay, I think we can move to you, Dr. Sarat.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure for me to be here. And thank you so much for organizing this at such short notice. And it's been 3 days since I've been here, and it's been really, really exciting to learn about the context. Now, uh, I had to really shorten my presentation, given the time constraints. Uh, when you enter Jakarta city, when you enter, after a point, you start seeing a lot of green motorbikes with green helmets, and the pillion rider also is wearing a green helmet. So you automatically become curious. What is this? Who are they? I mean, are they from Green Party or are they from progressive? Or progressive. So very slowly you get to learn that they are the taxi drivers. But to me, that symbolizes the emerging gig economy. The future of most of our economies seem to be going to increasingly they're going to be like that. With that introduction, let's move on. Yanu, you are okay. I will the previous one. The previous one. Yeah, in fact, I will not go so much into it because Janu already has given the basic definition. I would only add the sixth one, which is that basic income should be a right. Okay, we can move on. Now, 3 years ago, when we made a film on basic income, we ended the film by saying that basic income may be a utopian idea, but it's an achievable utopia. But today, 3 years down the road, after being thinking about it so much and traveling so much, I realized it's not a utopia at all. It's a need. It's an urgent need for most of our countries, and that probably is the only boat on which we can stay afloat. Otherwise, I think the time has come when the economies have come to a tipping point of sinking, and we will see more and more. So, why is it important to discuss basic income now? Because this idea has been there for a long time. It's because of the emerging gig economy. So, let's move further on that and why this gig economy and at what pace and at what speed it is growing. Shall we move to the next, Janu? Janu, shall we move to the next slide? Yeah, see, we are living already in the second decade of almost moving to the third decade of the 21st century. But our thinking about work and welfare and how to care for people is still what used to be there in the 20th century. In the post-war world, like particularly in Europe, the Industry 2.0, I think that was, where they still thought of full employment. It was there visible. I mean, that it's possible to have full employment. And most of these economies where this model of welfare grew, they they said that we have 5% unemployment, 6% unemployment. So they created a safety net for those 6% people so that after the intervening period of unemployment, they could move back to the labor market and get their jobs. Now, so let's move. So that building is collapsing. This 20th century model of work and welfare, the way we are understood, that's why we need to ask these basic and fundamental questions about human well-being. Is necessary? Everybody follows. Yes, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay, I'll quickly run through this because we don't have so much time. See, the global trend of informalization of employment started way back in the 80s. In the 80s and the early 90s, before that, factories thought vertical integration was better. Everything under the one roof they were manufacturing in order to keep the control on quality. But then they developed business models of vendor management, outsourcing, and then make only most important parts in the main factory, and 60 to 70% of the ancillary parts were made around in small enterprises, which means in the process what they have done is they have passed on their own human resources and risks and liabilities to those smaller ones. Now, that was the business model. But now today, the business model is, the bikes that we have talked about. The GoTech, Uber, and Airbnb. The Airbnb is a company which runs millions of homes, but they don't own a single one. Uber runs millions and millions of cars, but they don't own a single one. Okay, so that's the new business model. So they have, what the technology has enabled is that, for example, we are making use of the technology. Yano is sitting somewhere in the United States and actually coordinating this meeting. So we are appropriating that technology. But then businesses have appropriated the technology and they have created also the technology. And when somebody like Raja creates it, they also appropriate it and buy it out of Raja so that Raja can't use it anymore for other purposes. So they have done that and they said progressively, increasingly, technology is saying that human hands are not necessary, or at least so many human hands are not necessary. We can manage. So the old model of, you remember these people used to have permanent jobs? I don't know if still people have. I think that they're becoming pure and pure. There used to be an ideal situation of a permanent job. You enter, you rise in the career, you reach the peak, and then you retire. You take your money after retirement, you go to a farm or build a house and live there with your pension and peacefully retire from this world. But today, all those bike fellows, when you see pictures, you see very happy GoTech drivers. They are looking very happy. Do you think they are sleeping peacefully that night? Do you think they are secure? They are 25, 26, 28-year-old boys. Okay? Now, they don't have a permanent job. They are working with GoTech today and they will be with maybe another tech tomorrow. Maybe they will become Uber drivers. You don't know. Now, if you look into statistics, I was just studying some statistics that 42% of Indonesian population is between 0 and 24. Which means in the next 20 years, imagine the number of people who are going to pour into the labor market. Now, what is it that we are promising them? In India, it is 28%, actually more than 40%, it's actually more than that. Now, the question is that in the global competition, companies are competing with each other. And if they don't adopt newer technologies and become more efficient, some companies are going to fall by the wayside. Now, today we are in 21st century, we are seeing nations are competing with each other, for global investment because the production is globally dispersed. So today something can be manufactured in Indonesia and fed into China, and from there it can go in somewhere else. So earlier production used to happen under one roof, but now it's happening all over the world, and they're able to integrate that. In a situation like that, what kind of employment are we foreseeing in the next 20, 30 years for people who are coming into the labor market? What is it that we are promising? Shall we move ahead? So that's why today we have a crisis of see, when it is 5%, you can manage those people. But when it's going to be 60%, I think in India, 90% is informal sector. They between people have jobs without any contract. They will be self-employed, they will be informal contracts. But in Indonesia, I think 60 or more than 60% is informal sector. I don't have the exact figures. Now, the current welfare model is not geared to the changing landscape of gig work and the work and vulnerability, the way they are emerging in the 21st century are taking a completely different shape. But the model of welfare thinking we have belongs to 70 years ago. We have not changed our thinking about how to care for our populations, how to look after our people, working or non-working. So the current welfare model is based on providing social security to exceptions. But that landscape is changing. Shall we go? So the fundamental question that we have to ask is, who cares for you from birth to death? Who cares for you? You can see when you are very small, your family takes care of you. When you're going to school, your family still takes care of you. After that, you get into the labor market after you study, and then you get into a job. The company is supposed to take care of you, give you permanency, economic security, growth, okay? And then you retire. So you retire because you have been productive for 40 years. The system says that you take a pension. This is the pension you are getting for what you have done earlier. Now today, the people who have, and then rest in peace, hopefully, in peace. So that used to be the cycle, but today we are not able to say that that is going to happen. Maybe a few people, let's go on. Okay, the question is, whose responsibility is it to take care of you? I just have this kind of a matrix here. You have on the one hand, family, you have the government, you have the market, and you have the community. By community, I mean the voluntary sector, people who work voluntarily for you, either it can be UN or it can be an NGO. Now, what is happening in this matrix is, to some extent, family can handle. And then, to some extent, government has to play its role. But now what government is trying to do is to pass on its own responsibility to either to the market or to the family. The problem is, family will look after, but it has only so much capacity to look after you. Beyond a point, it will also break out. When you lose a job or when you get a divorce, you go back to your family. Do you? Do you do that in Indonesia? In India, we do that. When I take a divorce, I go back because I am helpless. So, but then the family can for some time look after you, but it may not have all the resources. But then in the long run, either the government should look after you or you have to go into the market. Now, if the gig economy is going to be 90%, if 90% of the workforce are going to be in the short term, unpredictable, precarious, informal jobs, then you have a problem. So, market is cruel. It looks at people in two categories, the market outside. It has winners and losers in the market. So for winners, market has a plan, what to do next. expansion. But for losers, market has no plan.
Can you just go? Yeah. Yeah, this is a very interesting story. Greta, I don't know how many of you have heard of her. Greta is a 16-year-old girl from Sweden. She's a 16-year-old girl. At some point of time in her last year I think, she told her parents that I will not go to school. I will not go to school because I don't feel hopeful about anything in life. Nothing is exciting me. I don't see a future for myself, nor for my classmates, nor for my people around me with whom I play. So she said, I'm not going to school. So the parents said, okay, maybe she's going through some bad time. I think this is also her, she's adolescent and all the problems. So they said, okay. After 1 month of staying at home, she made this placard and started going into Stockholm streets and sitting on the streets with this placard. Okay? On 20th of August, she went to the parliament, Swedish parliament, and outside the gates of the parliament, she sat the whole day with this placard, School Strike for Climate. I mean, she is actually representing, and then she gave a call for all the school children to go on a strike on March 15th. So March 15th, March 15th, there was a school strike from 100 countries. Children went on school, and their slogan is very interesting. They said, we do not have a planet B. We have only one planet. So she is representing the hopelessness that we are leaving this generation behind. If we don't ask those questions, I think that generation will certainly ask those questions. Yano, let's move. Now what happens is, I think there's a professor called Professor Guy Standing. I think Raja is translating his book or is going to present more of details on that. He said the current way of classes, the new classes are, in the 21st century, what has happened is there's a handful of people becoming extremely rich. People like, all of you know, people like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, Amazon. They are like no king in the past would have been as rich as they are now. Okay? They all pale, all King Edward and all of them pale in front of these people now. They are so rich. And the world has become that they show a handful of these people and a mass like this of people who are in the gig economy. We can call them, he calls them precariat, which means they are living a very precarious existence. Precarious proletariat. So, yeah, precarious proletariat. No, keep it there. Yeah, no, keep it there. The previous one. Yeah. Now, what is happening is that the earlier, in 20th century or a little before that, there was a consensus among the classes that you do your thing, I will do my thing. I am rich because of these reasons. You are poor because of those reasons. We agree on those two reasons. Okay? Now, there used to be a consensus among the classes, so they lived with some modicum of equilibrium. But today, I think that equilibrium is breaking. People are realizing that I'm too insecure and you are too wealthy. This is not okay. Okay? So, there is a crisis now between the state and its citizens also. So, we are reaching a tipping point in the name of Brexit or in the name of something else or in the name of whatever. People are rising and coming out on the streets. That shows that there is a crisis I think mankind has to address. Now, Guy Standing also says that this class, what he called the precariat, or as our honorable member of parliament said, precarious proletariat, they are prone to elect leaders such as X and Y and Z we know in the world. All of them dictators, extremely bigots, nationalistic and populist and spreading hate politics. They create the other and say that all this is because of the other, go and smash the other. and the other can be X or Y or Z, you know who they are. Okay? Considered to be the enemies. Now, that is the impact this economy is having on politics. That is the impact this economy is also having on culture. The way we think of the meaning, what is the meaning of our existence, or consumerism. So all these impacts we have to address. So it is in that context we are saying that if that is going to be the future scenario, you need to give a basic minimum floor for everybody to stand on. It is an extension of public inheritance. With this, I will close my point that we have been taking private inheritance for granted. But we have forgotten that there is something called public inheritance. That national wealth, natural resources, they belong to people, and the state is only a custodian. And we have a right to ask the state, because state is a custodian and people are the owners. Owner has a right to ask the guardian and the custodian, how are you managing my natural resources? How are you managing my commons? How are you managing my inheritance? Okay, this is family jewelry which is meant to be used properly. Now so in that sense, a basic income is coming from that public inheritance. What you inherit as part of being a citizen of this country. The system owes you, the nation owes you a certain basic ground on which you can stand and then build your life. Thank you.
You look like a behind your speech like the Prachanda speech in the middle of Nepal. Like Prachanda speech. You know his? Yeah.
I'm ready. Thanks, Nasha.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. I will just give probably only 5 minutes of my inputs just to follow what our friends already talked about, and it's about precariat, right? Sarah has mentioned about precariat. I'll try to elaborate a bit what is precariat. Next one. So there's a book that I strongly suggest you all to read by Professor Guy Standing, who happens to be a good friend of Sarah. Actually, it was it was a professor. It's called The Precariat: The New Dangerous Class. The title is pretty provoking, though. But what is precariat? You can see in this pyramids. You have at the top level, you have the elites. So the elites class, the elites, if you want. Then you have the salariat, people who has big salaries, works for big salaries, and things. Then you have the professionals. So you work based on your profession. You're paid for what you work, which is good. You have the old, quote unquote, working class, right? Laborers, etc., etc. But you have precariat, and you have even the unemployed or long precariat, which is the Gojek one that Saurath just mentions, they belong to the precariat ones. They don't have security, they're insecure, they don't have contract. By the Gojek, they're partner of Gojek. They're partner of the company. They're not workers of the company. Means that they don't have rights, they don't have pensions, and other things. So this is a good example of what precariat is. So I touch upon this issues precariat because if we are going to discuss about UBI, then we need to know who are we actually, or who are we in the world? Like, who are we? Precariat, salariat, or whatever. So we need to know. aristocrat. So we need to know our society, how our society works. Next, Mas. So, in this sections, you can read it. Precariat, it refers to the growth of the social stratum, social level, social layers within the working class, which is characterized by job insecurity, short-term contracts, and lack of rights at work, and very often low pay. This is precariat. Gojek, for example. Or I can give you example. Our brothers and sisters who are working in Indomaret or in Alpha Mart. Yes, they have salary. The market, the link. Yes, supermarkets. It's everywhere. It's like mushroom. Like if you put it in a map, it's like mushroom. They have salaries, but are they secure? I don't think so. Ask them how much they get paid. Ask them if they get sick. If they have children, they need to put their children in schools. Hopefully, superstitious. Sick. So this is the problem. So they are precariat in that sense. So and then Professor Guy Standing also coined the term the denizen. In contrast to citizen, denizen is characterized by effective dispossessions from rights, among which are protections from crime, social welfare, political rights, and the representations of interest. So, to sum up, the term precariat actually is a combination of both precariousness and dispossession. Dispossessions of what they have, of their rights, of their life. So I want to put it here in this room so then we can discuss it later. So precariat, precariousness, and dispossessions, insecurity. Next, Mas. I don't think, you can, there's a second book of Guy Standing, the next book, sorry, the Precariat Charter, From Denizens to Citizens. There are three ideas or three characters of this precariat. First, out of control time. Second, relations to distributions, and third, relations to the state. Out of control time. Yes, we often work in the formal working hours, but in the outside of working hours, we also work. We need to work. We have to work because it's not enough what we earn. So we need to work, and work. So that's all what he means by out of control time. So you can elaborate further, but I just put this slide just to give you ideas that there are three characters of this precariat. First, out of control time, about the time. Second, about relations of distributions. So low wages, no contract, no secure contracts, etc., etc. And the third, relations to the state. The third one says that the precariat is the first class in the history. That are losing acquired rights.
Sounds like reading English very well.
The cultural rights, the civil rights, the social rights, economic rights, and even political rights sometimes in many cases. So I strongly also suggest you to read this Professor Standing's book just to understand what precariat is. Okay, the next one. So I give you example what precariat is, and I think this is gonna be interesting for research. If you are all interested in doing research, I think it's gonna be interesting. This is the pictures from above, aerial pictures of Kota Pekalongan. It's one city in central Java. I don't know, our online participants are somebody from Pekalongan, but this city is 30% permanently inundated, flooded, wet. When I was there just last year, three citizens of Pekalongan died because when they get up from their bed and they put their feet on the floor, it's wet. They're bitten by a snake, sea snake, and bug, and they're dead. 3 people, and it's going like this. Pekalongan, just 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours from Jakarta here. So you have this kind of city, and most of the young people, they became precariat. They don't have jobs. or even if they have jobs, the men, not only young, the men, they turn from farmers or from fishermen, they turn into tukang beca, the tricycle, the bicycle tricycle, or they turn into Gojek, because there's no more things left. They just can't do their jobs, right? So precariat. So people lost jobs, and also violence is there. Household violence. People are beating their wives just because they are getting very stressed. No security. So this is one example where precariat might happen. So within the city. So within the city. So we need probably to do research more on how people become precariat from city to city, from city to rural, or etc. etc. Next, Mas. Next picture. So this is very Mas Agusari, my good friend here, is very familiar with this picture. This picture is a picture from Borneo, Kalimantan. In the down part, you can see it's not forest actually, but yeah, they consider it as a green area belonging to the indigenous people of the Dayak. But in the upper part, you can see the palm oil plantations, right? This area is somewhere out there. Indonesia, in Borneo, in Borneo parts of Indonesian part of Borneo, right? So when I was there, I met two boys, 14 years old and 15 years old. They came from Java, East Java, and they told me, Mas is a brother, please bring us back to Java. Please kidnap us because we are being kidnapped. Huh? I was like, how can you? How kidnap? How? Yeah, they promised us that you will have work and you will have money in Borneo, in Kalimantan. Instead, yes, they have money, they have salary, but you know how much does it cost for a tempe or tofu? Tempe is fermented soya. Tofu. It costs them 20,000 rupiahs per tofu, small tofu. So even though they have salary, their salary is just finished for buying tofu, probably. So precariat again. So with this picture, also child labor is pretty much everywhere. Mas Agus also knows very well. Human trafficking is pretty much everywhere. So through this picture, I wanna ask us also to discuss that precariousness happens not only in the urban areas but also in rural areas. So the people who works at the oil palm plantations come from the eastern part of Indonesia, mostly from Nusa Tenggara Timur, from Nusa Tenggara Barat, and they are being literally kidnapped. They are being promised that they have salaries, but when they arrive there in Kalimantan, nothing, and they just have to work, and they can't even go back to the bigger cities, because to be able to go to the big cities, mostly you have to go through the river, which costs you a lot. So next, Mas. So I would like to bring us to this. This is almost the last slide. To bring us somewhere with the UBI. I borrowed the idea of Karl Polanyi, one of the theorists, the double movement. So UBI. With UBI, if you can't survive, you can't resist the system, right? To be able to resist to the system, to be able to provide counter movement, counter narrative, counter narratives, you have to feel secure. You have to survive. You need UBI. You need something that makes you feel secure, basic. Then you fight for your rights. So I would like to bring us to that level. Let's think. The double movement of Karl Polanyi shows of market. Yes, there's a market economy, but behind this market economy, there's also the resistance. Also UBI. Let's make us secure first. Let's be secure first, and then let's resist. Let's change the system. Like this. And next month, this is the last time. So I remember this word. Some people feel the rain, the others just get wet. So this is from Uncle Bob Marley, by the way. So let's feel the rain. We know there are big problems in this world, but let's feel the rain. Let's not just get wet. Thank you very much.
Okay, give me 1 minute to download the presentation from Mas Budiman. Okay.
Actually, Janu, I sent one
Yes.
picture. I sent you my one more picture.
You can start.
Opening info space. Yes, my presentation. But put it in the different file. Yes. But it's very important because before this one, maybe we can
Okay.
skip to the picture that I just sent through Raja. Through Raj.
Okay, wait first. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Oh, this is video. Okay.
I just sent another picture.
Is another picture?
Yeah, that's one through Raja.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
this one. You want to start from here?
Yes, start from here.
Okay, let me make it bigger.
Yeah. Just a picture from my book. The hard copy is also not so clear, but hopefully I can read it. Yes.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Shalom Aleichem. Assalamualaikum. Swastiastu. My dear friends, Professor, Raja, and other participants of discussion, my name is Budiman Sapiko. I'm the chairperson of the movement Innovator for Open Zero Indonesia, and then also the chair of advisory board of the association of the head of village association in Indonesia. The side job is member of my side job is the member of national parliament. Actually, just taking this picture from the book that I bought. No, actually I got from Raja. This book just published this year, written by Susana Zubov, graduated from Harvard Business School. But actually, she writes a very nice book, lovely book. Title is The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. Yeah, you got it. That's cool. Actually, this picture explaining the key message of the book about the discovery of behavioral surplus. So, if you are quite familiar with the Marxian text written in the 19th century, I think we will be familiar with this kind of scheme. If Marx believed that the surplus that absorbed from the man is their work, their job, their capacity to produce, actually, in the age of 4.0 now, the surplus that extracted from the man is not their job, it's not their labor, but their experience, their behavior, their daily experience, their thinking, their behavior. So, the discovery of behavioral surplus is actually the most valuable assets of humankind, of sapiens. Because this behavioral not only talking about manual works, that's quite detail elaborated by Marx, but also the human experience, the human behavior in all walks of life actually creating values. I think this is the fact of our current era. So, markers of in future behavior, prediction products, the new means of production, render behavior, profits, behavioral data, analytics, etc. are the key components of profit-making activities. That's the message of our current era. Okay, jump to my presentations. So what's the solution? Yeah, I know some people proposing for UBI, universal basic income. But actually, after reading about universal basic income from some material and resources, and after contemplating our activities on the ground, because actually I'm not theoreticians, I'm the practitioner. I'm the practitioner who has obsession with the idea. And then we arrived at the conclusion. It is not income that's very important. Income is just only tiny part of the whole thing, of man, of humankind that can create. It's assets. Their experience, their data, their behavior, their taste on certain things, be it artistic taste, political taste, economic taste, etc., are their assets. My liking to the kopi luwak, my appetite to sayur asam, it's my asset. It is not just only my expression. Even my expression is my asset. Part of our behavior, part of my behavior that can be extracted by algorithm to have value, having values. So there are two kind of people that can change the world at the moment. Those who read Wealth of Nation and knows algorithm, and those who read Communist Manifesto and knows algorithm. Achieve it. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Atas lagi. Atas lagi. Yeah. Okay. So throughout modern history, we've had to continuously navigate the dilemma of wealth concentration versus wealth distribution. Also, knowledge concentrations and knowledge distribution. Data concentration and data distribution. Behavior, data on behavior, concentration on data on behavior, experience, and also distribution. So not only wealth actually, knowledge distribution and concentration. On one hand, we must aggregate capital in order to make necessary investment and scale up economic activity in pursuit of growth. On the other, social cohesion, functioning democracy depend on more equitable distribution, more equal distribution of economic prosperity. That's the maxim of the equilibrium, of the homeostasis of our dynamic society. Okay, that's the maxim that I believe. Not only in social, but also in biological. Homeostasis, equilibrium, etc. Bawah lagi. Siapa sih kan belakang ini? Oke, ya, bawah lagi. The equilibrium between these two goals is missing. Okay, it can go worse even. Bawah lagi. I think Raja and previous speakers already elaborate about it. Bawah lagi. Bisa. So, when everything in the world, be tangible or intangible, can be an asset, can be transformed into as asset, as an asset. So, actually, the source of welfare is everywhere. It's everywhere. Alright. I think it's connected. It's connected. Actually, Yes, that's very important. So, reducing or simplifying the problem of humankind or society in the age of 4.0 revolutions, that's only as the lack of income, lack of cash. I think it's too simplistic for me. It's too simplistic. We can actually classify into some groups in the society. Maybe ada di situ Raja, ada di situ ya. Oke, sorry, langsung aja di situ. Nanti kemudian ada satu lagi. Sorry, yang tadi. Tapi saya ya, ini nggak bisa ya. Oke. So our goal is how to regain the balance. And universal basic income, or UBI, is actually good. A guaranteed minimum payment for everyone as a way to ensure guaranteed minimum for people to live on. UBI will provide flexibility for everyone to explore creativity, actualize their humanity, while allowing simple things to be handled by machines and robots. Simple things, but it's not enough. It is impossible for a person simply earning a salary to see the same economic returns as investors. Funneling money to the 90% perpetuates their role as consumers. Yeah? Pumping money straight back up to the 1% at the top of pyramid. Giving everyone cash is not progressive, or actually, fundamentally not progressive. It's better to teach men how to fish than to simply give him fish. We need a framework for equality. Okay. Sorry. So actually, we can classify into three things: open assets, public assets, and private assets. There are three kinds of assets: open, public, and private assets. So universal basic assets actually supposed to guarantee the minimum access to those kind of things: open assets, public assets, and private assets. Wow, actually this is the most important thing today. Okay, lagi dari sobat. Okay, right. Actually, this is not the concept, Professor. Actually, to some extent, we already practicing it, but in the rural areas. Rural areas. We create what? We will give the solution in the last page of my presentation. This is not only a concept, but we already practice it. The whole villagers have shared to the village-owned enterprises. Okay. Yes, lagi.
Karena putus, mungkin kasihan teman-teman yang online, tapi kita diskusi di sini aja. Still trying. I did check it. So because we get cut from the connections, I think we can discuss here. Everybody can, throw.
Something can record it so that we can send it.
Yes, I think one of us is recording it, so we can send it to our online friends later on, right? Is it working? Yeah. Cool. So I open the floor for people, whoever wants to make some inputs, questions, or even to challenge some of the ideas. Please, who wants to be first to give inputs or discuss? You can do it in Bahasa Indonesia as well if you want. I can translate to you, or yeah, we can do it in Bahasa if you want. Please. Yes. Questions, inputs, opinions of universal basic income, universal basic assets, universal. Anybody?
Universal basic income and assets.
Universal basic income and asset. UBIA.
UBIA.
Yeah.
Not ABBA.
Music. So anybody has some inputs from your in bahasa itself, okay? Di bahasa Indonesia Bapak dan Ibu nggak apa-apa, saya silakan. Tadi Pak Sarat sudah memberikan masukan beliau tentang universal basic income dan macam-macam bagaimana di India juga. Mas Budiman sudah memberikan masukan tentang universal basic asset. Jadi nggak cuma income rupanya, tapi kita aset karena perilaku kita adalah aset, cara kita pikir adalah aset, cara membatik aset. Jadi pandangan kita pun aset. Jadi jangan-jangan kita harus lebih maju daripada income gitu, tapi juga aset gitu. Itu masukannya Mas Budiman. Silakan teman-teman yang mau diskusi, monggo ayo.
Hati-hati loh, kalau cukur rambut di Indonesia rambutnya jadi belum datang.
Iya, betul. Kami baru ketemu tukang cukur orang Indonesia di Oxford, PhD-nya tentang mencukur, tapi bukan mencukur rambut, mencukur DNA. Jadi DNA dicukur sama dia gitu. Jadi digunting sama dia, bisa diganti begitu ke CRISPR dan macam-macam. Jadi menarik sekali. Silakan, ada yang mau nanya atau lebih privat atau kalau diskusi ini.
Actually, we need the old-fashioned libertarian to challenge our ideas.
Yes.
Because actually, the universal basic income is also shared by some enlightened libertarian, just like even Milton Friedman, right?
Right.
We need some old-fashioned or textbookish libertarian that maybe challenge this idea.
Right.
We need, but unfortunately, we don't have that.
We don't have one as well.
Quick response to Mr. Budiman's presentation. It is very, very powerful presentation. I personally do not see any contradiction in that. I think they can supplement each other. And the whole engagement with the concept of UBI is helping us to interrogate the whole system. We are interrogating, we are also want to reclaim the commons, and I think we have, in small experiments, like the Indian experiment, we have seen, we only see a glimpse of when everybody gets a certain regular stream of income, what happens to them psychologically is we are seeing only in experiments. We are not experiencing anywhere else. So what we see, because that is a world we do not know. We only know the world where the floor is very uneven. We have not seen a world where the floor is even. Now when that happens, when everybody experiences a sense of income security, I think a lot of things start happening. In fact, in one of the villages, tribal villages that we have seen as part of our experiment, 13 young boys who were supposed to be simply sitting like unemployed youth. They remained unemployed, they were getting money, they kept it secretly, they didn't spend it. They were simply sitting in the village for 3 months. Then they said, why don't we all come together? We have a pond in this village. Let's go buy some fish eggs and put in the pond. And to do that, they had to clean up the pond. So 13 people worked together and eventually created a fish cooperative. And once the cooperative happened and they started getting the fish and started selling in the village itself and also outside, they started getting income. They said, this is a common property and how can we take this income? So they started putting all that money in the bank. And then they said, why should money be lying in the bank and bank full of using that money? Let us use it for our own people. They started giving interest-free loans to their own village people. I mean, village people, they're not charging any, when they get the money back, they give it to somebody else. So this is something, it was not at all planned in our experiment. Now, a lot of social multiplier effects are possible when that sense of camaraderie, solidarity happens in the village. Now, automatically they will move towards assets, because when you have universal basic assets, from an asset what we expect is a rent. And that rent should go to everybody. So when you say commons, we have to reclaim the commons, where today government says that it is our property and throws people out of them. Like in India we have forest department throws the tribals living there out, saying that you are encroaching into the forest, you have become a threat to the wildlife. So you should go out. So the whole point is to reclaim the commons and get the rent from that commons. And that should be given as a citizen's dividend to each and every citizen. So instead of creating, we should create new assets, of course, but we already have assets. There's already owners. Let us reclaim that ownership.
Thank you, sir. Asik. Kenalan dulu sama.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiara and I work at UNDP right now. I quite bummed actually to miss your presentation today, but my first time hearing about universal basic asset from you, very interesting ones. And I have questions. So, well, at least for now, at this moment, I think that makes sense. You know, you're talking about assets instead of just income. As a millennial, I think it makes a lot of sense. I learn, and I don't think it's just salary that, you know, I don't just benefit from the salary, but also from the learning points, from getting the mentorship, the experience, having the exposure to certain industries that otherwise I wouldn't get from other jobs. But you give one example about BUMDes. What about the city? You know, we have a lot of, and then we're talking about Innovator 4.0, Industry 4.0. What about people that live in the city? We're talking about, you know, jobs taken away by robots, machine. That's, you know, that's just not for those people who live in the village. It's not just for petani, but also people in the city. So, do we have a solution for that? And do you think this can be replicated to, you know, a lot of part of Indonesia? Universal basic income is essential. It's universal. That's the first word. Universal basic asset. Can we make it universal? How do we do that? Do we have the APBN? Do we have the capacity? I don't know if this is too much of a question, but I hope you can give us answers. And nice to meet you again, Ashley. We met briefly in London, in Warwick. You spoke at the ISIC, yes, 2 years ago, but yeah. Thanks so much.
Saya Fitria dari TN Pedoka. Oke, pertanyaan pertama tentang universal basic income. Jadi kalaupun akhirnya nanti skema universal basic income yang tadi mau diterapkan atau frameworknya itu akan ditargetkan untuk siapa dahulu. Jadi kerangkanya itu nanti untuk siapa gitu ya? Apakah untuk kerja kah atau dalam level rumah tangga atau bagaimana gitu, atau individu. Lalu mengenai universal basic asset, ini pertama kalinya juga saya dengar, dan tadi salah satu contohnya adalah BUMDes, bahwa BUMDes nggak jauh beda, bahwa itu tadi contoh dari untuk tackling inequality, ketimpangan. Bisa mungkin dielaborasi lebih jauh?
Bisa, sebenarnya ada slide yang lain yang detail ya. Oke, aku dulu ya. Oke, Tiara, and then Divya. Fitria. Okay, sorry. As a man from village, I'm delighted to know that you ask for help from the village. Sorry. But actually, this idea can be applied nationwide, not only in rural areas. Okay. There are two models to set up this scheme of the universal basic asset. First is state-driven, that has been applied in village through the state fund, village fund from the national budget, distributed to 74,958 villages. So through this fund, people can decide what is the best for them, right? For everything, including to set up the company, village or enterprise. So the problem of villagers, people who live in the rural areas, is the lack of know-how. So the money, cash, is not issue anymore, at least for 140 million people who live in the 80% of Indonesian geography, physical geography. So money or cash is not the issue anymore. It's not the problem anymore for half of Indonesian population who live in 80% of Indonesian physical geography, covering 74,958 villages. Half of them, those those people who live in urban areas, I think a considerable part of them, they have a parent who still live in villages, or uncle or auntie who still live in villages. And then the rest are people whose grandfather and grandmother live in villages. So, biologically, genetically, psychologically, of course, and culturally, of course, still they have ties with villages. So, actually, village fund or BUMDes, if they are handled properly, professionally, they can give impact directly to those people who still live in villages, around 140 million, and their relatives who live in cities or who live abroad. Try to connect. Maybe those people who already live in urban areas, they can share their know-how to their uncle, to their nephew, niece who still live in villages, to set up the professional and modern companies, right? That's what we are doing as well by setting up Innovator 4.0 Indonesia, actually trying to organize those villagers who live already in the city or in Silicon Valley or in Oxford and Cambridge, not to help in the traditional way, but to be organically part of these social enterprises in village. So just for example, I have a friend who studied AI in Oxford. He's from Madiun, or study, I forgot, from Cirebon. Okay, after graduating from Oxford, studying AI, I should help the companies in villages in Madiun, trying to set up, for example, technology companies owned by villages. Why not? Why not? For example, okay, that's still located in villages. But how about those who live in city? The two solutions. First is the state-driven, and one is market-driven, right? State-driven, actually, Pak Jokowi already get the proposal with the Dana Kelurahan or Kelurahan Fund. Kelurahan is the communities at the lowest level in urban areas, but different with the villages in rural areas. Kelurahan is part of the state, of local government, right? So not as independent as desa. So they are not entitled to have bungkel. No, Buma dan usaha milik kelurahan. No, they don't have. They are not entitled to have bungkel or bungkel. But yet they can set up the cooperative movement, neighborhood cooperative movement, not bungkel but cooperative movement. So they can perform like BUMDes. Why not? That's the idea of Pak Jokowi to set up the Dana Kelurahan Fund. That's state-driven one. And the market-driven and technological-driven one, the one that already described to you, when existing company, laying off their workers due to mechanization robotics, they should give share to the workers. Pardon?
Share of the company?
Saham, yeah, saham. Well, maybe 0.1% is okay. For 0.1%. Still the capitalists, the owners, still they have a majority share. It's no, never mind. Yeah. For example, the William anaknya siapa? Oh, Jarum. If Jarum want to transform from the cigarette factory to become the highly automatized, highly mechanized factory producing robot or producing aeroplane, for example, telling off 10,000 workers, still that person they can have share, compensated by having share. Maybe 1.1 or 0.001%. It's okay. Still the majority of share owned by Pak Budi Hartono. It's okay, never mind. But still, the workers now they become the owners or co-owners of the Jarum, for example. So this is trying to make a balance, put a balance between two. And then, yeah, Fitria, the mechanism of BUMDes actually saying like BUMN.
I need sampai equality.
Kalau bisa. One example in Desa Ponggok in Klaten. Yeah, they even the revenue each year is around 14 billion rupiahs. They can give a scholarship to each household. In one household, one graduate scholarship. Yeah, even the elder people, they have voucher, 300,000 rupiahs per month, as long as they use it to buy food, goods from the Mark Desa, yeah? Mark owned by BUMDes. Why not? You can visit Ponggok in Klaten, for example. Yeah? So I have a vision that how to replicate from Desa Ponggok to other 74,957 villages in Indonesia. But we are working on it. It's doable, workable, less controversial, not politically controversial. At least many people still don't understand what's really going on. That's cool. So we can make anything. Yeah, that's cool. Some oligarchs don't understand what's really going on. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, actually there is two aspects to the question you asked. Universal, when we say universal, we are coming to the whole idea philosophically that every citizen or the resident of a territory is entitled to a basic income. In the sense, is entitled to a basic minimum floor. That is the principle. Okay, it's like when you go for voting, all citizens are equal. You don't have a VIP track, you don't have a fast track, and you don't have an ordinary track. You don't have tracks based on classes, isn't it? You're all equal. So there is a solidarity effect that comes because of universality, that all of us get this basic income because we are citizens of this country.
So I have a vision that how to replicate from Desa Ponggok to other 74,957 villages in Indonesia. But we are working on it. It's doable, workable, less controversial, not politically controversial. At least many people still don't understand what's really going on. That's cool. So we can make anything. Yeah, that's cool. Some oligarchs don't understand what's really going on. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, actually there is two aspects to the question you asked. Universal, when we say universal, we are coming to the whole idea philosophically that every citizen or the resident of a territory is entitled to a basic income. In the sense, is entitled to a basic minimum floor. That is the principle. Okay, it's like when you go for voting, all citizens are equal. You don't have a VIP track, you don't have a fast track, and you don't have an ordinary track. You don't have tracks based on classes, isn't it? You're all equal. So there is a solidarity effect that comes because of universality, that all of us get this basic income because we are citizens of this country, a sense of solidarity. The second thing that happens is that it ceases to be a welfare scheme or another welfare scheme because everybody is getting it. It's an entitlement and a right rather than a welfare scheme. So all the stigma that is attached to the welfare completely goes away. So that is why we say universal is very important. Now when you come to actual policy making, each context, for example in India, we are 1.3 billion people. I think we are already more than China, but I think statistics are saying that we are almost next to each other. So now when we say you give everybody a basic income, the government may say okay, but then what each one will get will be so small that it loses the bite. It loses the sting, you know. So we also don't want to dilute the concept of basic income by pushing it for that. Now, then the question comes, where do you start? Now, just about 4 days ago, the opposition leader in India has announced that if he comes to power, he is going to implement basic income for the 20% population. 20% of the poorest will get X amount of money. X amount of money, actually, which is a very good money he has offered. Now, possible that he will proceed in that direction. 1 year ago, one provincial government has announced a scheme, a program, that all the farmers will get X amount of money for season 1, X amount of money for season 2, based on their acreage. Which means, they didn't call it a welfare scheme for farmers, but they called it investment for farmers. So, what happens when you come to the realpolitik or actual pragmatic situations, there you see wherever is the pressure point. Like in South Korea, the first thing that came to my mind was that let's give a youth dividend, because that is where that's their pressure point. So similarly, each context will have a pressure point, and from there the solution will start coming forth. But at the end of the day, we should aim for universality. That's very important.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yep.
Dari live.
Or yeah, online. Yeah, they are online.
Anyone online?
Ini dari Periscope, ada pertanyaan. Bukan pertanyaan sebenarnya, lebih ke bantahan. Ada yang bilang karena di Twitter sedikit lebih terbatas kalimatnya, ada yang bilang UBS is the last consumption of market system. Jadi mungkin banyak yang, mungkin kalau saya terjemahkan, mungkin banyak yang meragukan bisa tidak UBI ini dijalankan, atau UBA itu dijalankan di Indonesia misalnya. Bukan masalah bisa atau tidaknya saja, tapi mempengaruhi orang-orang untuk setuju soal UBI dan UBA, karena banyak pandangan sinis terhadap konsep ini.
Karena alasan sinisnya?
Ya enggak, mungkin dianggap aneh atau dianggap kok bisa gitu seluruh orang dibiayai seperti itu untuk hidup.
Oke. Oh.
Itu mas. Jadi sinisme masyarakatnya, bukan masalah bisa atau nggak bisanya. Kalau bisa ya mungkin aja bisa.
Halo, tes. Tes.
Sudah?
Halo. Halo.
Halo.
Halo. Halo, tes.
Belum.
Tes.
Ada untuk Mas Arif.
Oh oke. Yang teman-teman berarti ya.
Sudah?
Oh dari teman-teman online ada yang mau bertanya, bukan?
Mas Danu, sebentar ada.
Dari banyak mungkin atau dari siapa?
Sebentar ada pertanyaan.
Langsung dipanggil aja. sampaikan pertanyaannya.
Sebentar Mas Edung, ada pertanyaan yang harus dijawab sama Sarah.
Oh, oke.
Ya, jadi sambil dengerin teman-teman yang online.
Yeah, the question was that many audience are feeling that very pessimistic about this idea that it may not be a very practical proposition to talk about universal basic income. Is it really something that is practical, or is it something that is just we are talking in the air? Is it something utopian? Am I right in the question?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yes, yeah.
Is that the question?
Yes.
Well, I think the 21st century realities of our life are in front of our eyes, and it's only emerging. It's going to become more serious as we go ahead in the third decade of this century. The number of people who are going to be economically insecure is going to be very, very large. There is no prospect in any of our economies in Asia where there's no prospect of any secure employment for a lot of people. Now, we have to find answers to these questions. Now, if we say, is it practical to talk about it? See, when we are pragmatic and when we are practical, we are reproducing the old system. We are not changing the system. We need to open a lot of questions. We need to interrogate the existing ways of our living. It's like going to a doctor and say that tell doctor that I want to live for 100 years, but don't ask me to change anything in my life. If we have to move to a different way of organizing our society and giving more care to our people, we have to really open all questions and start talking like as Mr. Budiman has talked about assets. I would say that let us ask questions about the commons or assets that we already own as citizens, and let us ask how they are getting managed. Who is managing them? Are they managing them well? Let us reclaim our existing assets and let them give us a rent.
Thank you, Sir. Ada yang online, Mas Ian.
Teman-teman yang online, ada yang mau bertanya? Silakan. Silakan di-unmute, yang masih silakan di-unmute aja. Coba di-unmute dari sananya.
Halo.
Ya, silakan langsung. Yes.
Selamat pagi, Bapak Ibu sekalian, terutama di Jakarta. Selamat sore. Saya ada pertanyaan terkait untuk UBI ini. Saya baca aja ya, daripada saya lupa. Jadi saat ini tuh banyak sekali scholars dan peneliti yang menaruh perhatian kepada UBI, utamanya di Eropa, untuk agraria dan agrikultur. Adapun sejumlah lembaga standarisasi seperti trade fair yang kedepannya akan menaruh perhatian kepada UBI ini. Apakah Indonesia dari sisi kementerian dan lembaga akan juga fokus ke sini dan bagaimana mekanismenya? Itu pertanyaan pertama. Pertanyaan kedua adalah bila mana UBI memiliki fungsi sebagai jaring pengaman atau safety net untuk jaminan sosial, social security, bagaimana bisa menjadi jaminan harga pangan di tingkat petani dengan harga jual di price yang seakan mereka terima di konsumen. Bila mana kita menyamakan persepsi antara UBI dengan livelihood secara teori ataupun hipotesa, maka apa indikator secara vis-a-vis buyer atau end market mau mengambil peran dalam terobosan ini? Demikian.
Thank you, Mas Didi.
Actually, there is no idea. Actually, I proposed about this idea during the session in Parliament. The Commission 8 is dealing with the social issue, the poverty issue. I'm part of the Commission 8. I proposed for the UBI. Actually, at the time, I'm thinking about UBI, and then it seemed that we agreed upon to make a special commission to formulate what is being poured in this current era? What are those people that prone marginalized in this era? So we haven't started yet, actually, but we have an idea about to set up the special commission in Commission 8, dealing with the issue of what is being raised, what is being welfare in this digital and biological era of Revolution 4.0. So it is safe to say that no executive branch of government yet thinking about this idea. Pak Jokowi come up with the idea of the Kartu Prakerja. This is the very moderate version of UBI, yet it's become controversial because many people still thinking in a very conventional way. That's okay. This is about the revolution, into the revolution of ideas, to redefine what is the meaning of job, labor, work, leisure time. So we have to change everything before expecting people or society to accept this idea. And then, I think we need with some, even teaching some lecturers, some economists, right? Some sociologists, some anthropologists as well, about the plausibility of this idea, That's the point. That's the philosophical, from the philosophical perspective. Technical perspective, actually, there are many models. Utrecht model, Chicago model, Finland models, etc., or Indian model. And I think, instead of copying those models, me personally, as a politician, propose this idea. UBA, not UBI. This is the extended version of UBI. This is more universal than universal basic income. More universal in the sense. So we can debate about it. Unfortunately, in Indonesian politics, the idea is something that they lack of. The idea, this problem. So it's maybe quite good as well, because no challenge about this everything. Maybe some challenge from the economists, from the sociologists, from the social scientists. Yeah, maybe. But not from the politicians. Not yet. So Kartu Prakerja is the one step towards UBI. Kartu Prakerja by Pak Jokowi. By Pak Jokowi. But not universal. Yet. Basic income, yes, but not universal yet. In the coverage. Not universal enough. Smart card.
Yes, almost.
Another question?
Ada yang mau
Another question? Ada pertanyaan lain? Dari UMM? Mahasiswa sosiologi UMM? Any question?
What?
Tidak ada?
Boleh saya ngomong?
Oke.
Halo? Halo?
Please.
Should I speak in English or in Indonesian?
Yes, you can speak in English. So,
in English, okay. Bonjour, madame. Mister, how do you do? Well, I like to add some. Before I go forth, let me introduce myself. I'm a PhD researcher in Ghent University. I'm a cinnamon researcher. So my basic idea is, and the question is that is going on today, is about the possibility of upscaling the let's say, outreach to the global market. It's very important so the farmers can have a better proposition in bargaining in the global market. So as a UB, I've been also following some international conferences on this. So it's very important. It's not only from the local perspective, but it's also important from the end consumer to guarantee the whole buy to buy, the commodity to buy. So it's a two ways of negotiation. So it's not only based on the Indonesian part, but it's also based on the part in the, let's say, in the European part. So let's say I'm going to take a very concrete example. So if I'm going to take an example of my own research, like the cinnamon. So to harvest a cinnamon, it takes like 7 years minimum. And at the end, a farmer receives only like $4 for 1 kilo. They have to wait 7 years. And then how much is the sell price in Europe? It costs like 16 euros for 1 kilo. So it's like a 400% difference between Indonesia and in Europe. So there's a question mark on this condition that how can we, as the European market, to have equality, the whole buy to buy, the commodity to buy. So it's a two ways of negotiation. So it's not only based on the Indonesian part, but it's also based on the part in the, let's say, in the European part. So let's say I'm going to take a very concrete example. So if I'm going to take an example of my own research, like the cinnamon. So to harvest a cinnamon, it takes like 7 years minimum. And at the end, a farmer receives only like $4 for 1 kilo. They have to wait 7 years. And then how much is the sell price in Europe? It costs like 16 euros for 1 kilo. So it's like a 400% difference between Indonesia and in Europe. So there's a question mark on this condition that how can we, as the European market, to have equality, fairness. And the UB has become one of the center of idea to provoke as a standard to become the priority in the next coming years. And occasionally they will become a more like centralized idea to see this as a very important thing to mobilize in the value chain of the process. So maybe it's become a very big discussion that how can you as the basic in Indonesia to guarantee this in the coming years. Maybe that's one of my biggest concern is how can market here want to buy a higher price if there's another competition going on between the cinnamon from Vietnam or cinnamon from India that has less price than Indonesian if we Indonesia follow the protocols of the UBI. That's my say.
Okay, thank you, Sidi. Let's back to the speaker there.
It's actually a bit different question. Yeah. But I think it's actually related to the big ideas that we are discussing about this whole digital blah 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 blah, and then maybe you should Teddy and I doing something dealing with this kind of issues.
Okay, thank you. I will try to explain to answer about to give another perspective about UBI, universal. Answering the question related to the supply chain, this the emphasize about the supply chain because universal basic income, how much we get income and how big we can get the income to distribute. That's the issue. Yeah. It means that we talk about the value added. UBI cannot be implemented if we have the small value added for the ecosystem. Yeah, small. That it will be ideal if we have the higher value added. Yeah. The problem is the developing country always working in less value added. So there's no surplus to be distributed. There's no surplus to be distributed. The developed country, the advanced country, have the highest, always have the high value added. And why? Why it happened? Because the problem is about the value chain, supply chain, the global supply chain. I'm talking this because from my background in industry. Industry always have problem with supply chain. The industry always want to have the efficient supply chain, always want to have the effective supply chain, the closest supply chain. That's the problem. Why value added always low, and the developing country always low, and advanced country always high, because the developing country doesn't have the connection, good connection in global supply chain. So we have in Innovator 4.0, we have the initiative, as Mr. Mas Budiman explained before, about the ecosystem with villages, state-owned, village-owned enterprise. We try to support BUMDes. We try to find the solution for BUMDes so they can have a fair trade and good trade to global market, to minimize supply chain. To shorten supply chain. We set up BUMDes as agent-based model for the commodity trade. So to make it shortest path from the supply to demand. We set up many BUMDes in our platform. We develop platform. Yes, there are similar initiatives like that, but it seems like can be easier in ecosystem innovator and BUMDes, because we already have same language, same mission, same target. So we set up some BUMDes, almost 100 BUMDes, to be an agent-based model to become the trader from the farmer fishery to the global market, to the buyer, buyer. So that's the idea, to make it shortest supply chain, to give the opportunity for the village to get the higher value added. So if they have the value added, they have surplus income to be distributed. That's the idea from the Bangladesh. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't. I mean, we are coming to the question of affordability, that we cannot afford to give. At the same time, it's better to do other interventions. I feel that both can be done. For example, I give you an example. In India, we have one of the largest food security programs in the world. We give subsidized grains to almost 66% of the population, and that costs us, both the federal government expenditure and the provincial government's expenditure put together, it's something around 30 to 35 billion US dollars per annum. That's the annual expenditure we put on that. In that program, which is basically giving subsidized grain to people for 1 rupee, which is like so we have data to show that 40% of this program, there are transmission losses, there is leakages, and there is a lot of corruption. Now, my point is that as part of this interrogation, we also have to go back to our existing welfare spending, existing social spending, and see what is the value we are getting out of that. Every rupee that we are spending into that welfare, what is the value we are getting back? We need to interrogate that, and then you will find that there's a lot of money lying there, which can be used for the UBI. I mean, reducing the wastages of the existing system, where the delivery is not efficient at all. In addition to that, I'm talking about the commons. Like for example, if you have in the middle of the city, if you have 1 hectare of a park, you are giving citizens the use value of that park. Okay? Use value in the sense people can go and sit in the park and walk in the park and that is it. But suddenly government, suppose it decides to sell that land to builders and developers. Okay? Now, what transactions take place between the one who is selling it and one who is receiving it, and what is it what accountability that transaction has to the citizens who are the owners? Okay? Yep. I think in some countries, for example, I think in China there are experiments of when you take up land like that from people, you give development dividends rather than compensation immediately. Yes. Yeah? For a lifetime. Now, the question is that this example I gave you about the park being sold to the real estate developers. Now, if we can appropriate that as citizens, you get rent from that. Instead of a few politicians and few real estate giants profiting from it, I think the citizens can profit from it. So I'm saying let us open all questions.
Anyway,
I don't think I will not answer particularly on the issue of the agricultural products, but actually there are some initiatives as well in some cities in the world, just like Barcelona, for example. The thing that this is much more advanced than just. I think it is part of the universal basic asset, but technologically more advanced, but still affordable for Indonesia. If we combine between the universal basic asset scheme with 3D printing technology, with the makers movement, so the basic needs for the people to consume goods fulfilled not by other communities, but their own communities by producing their own tables, their own glasses, plates, housing, prosumer. So create the not precariat, but prosumer class, producers and consumers all together. Those that, because through 3D printing we are reaching the stage of the democratization of production. Not only democratization of information through internet or democratization of data through blockchain, but also democratization of production through 3D printing. So self-sufficient communities, be it village or town. This is being initiated in Barcelona and Bogota as well, in Colombia, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's good as well to reach the more equal society. Yeah. But technologically,
Hello?
it's make it possible.
yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mas Budi, you just mentioned about basic needs.
Yeah.
How can you measure basic needs? What are the scorecards? What are the tools to measure basic needs?
Okay.
Premium or medium? Let's say for the farmers. What are the farmers' basic needs?
Yeah. I think it's now more universal than basic. This is housing, clothes, food, data, and data has become the basic needs. Information, data/information, and technological, digital access, digital asset and digital access become the basic needs of the people in the current era. And Palaparing project is actually, and this is very important, Palaparing projects actually give access to the whole population. We will have new 137 million people become the digital citizens in the country, and the basic needs of this technology or data is fulfilled by the state. So, what else? I think it's subject to the very dynamic. I don't know. What else? I don't know, but at the current position is food, clothing, housing, and data. Charger is now basically. Yes,
access to education.
What?
Access to education.
Access to education. Oh yeah. Healthcare. Yeah. Healthcare, yes, healthcare.
Yeah.
Actually, there's some project by our friend in Malang. The villages in the villages who live in the 4 villages in Malang, they cannot predict their disease in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
So they can mitigate, they can prevent cancer or cardiovascular disease for the next 20 years, right? According to the data, that's so important. Telemedicine, something like that, and it's become affordable, I think. Yeah.
Anyone else? I just want to add something.
Yeah, of course.
Just 2 minutes, because the previous speakers spoke about the access. I think we need to distinguish between access and property.
Okay.
So there is a very good paper from 2003 by Nancy Peluso, The Theory of Access. It says, so access is our ability to derive benefits from things, while property is our right to derive benefits from things. So if we speak about access, like you said, Pak Budiman says, and Salat says, and our participants here asked, but what about the urban, the city? I think let's enlarge, let's reclaim access to the public space at city level. I think that's the thing. So if access is a bundle of power, while property is a bundle of right only. So it's about power. I think that's the thing that I want to ask. I want to add. So access is basic. Access. Without power, we can't do anything. Yeah, it's driven. Yeah. I don't know if
After human right, you must do human access.
So Mas Yanu or some more people.
Can you be more specific? What do you mean with access?
Yes, referring to what Peluso wrote, 2003, access is our ability to derive benefits from things. So ability, not only right, but ability. So our capacity, our imaginations, then our imaginations, our capacity. So it's not only right. Right is given, but access is about imaginations. It's about dream. It's about craziness. It's about creativities, right? Things like that, Mas. So yep.
Yeah, Mas Rajan?
Yes.
Is that the end of the discussion?
I don't know if somebody else here in Indonesia still wants to share or looks like.
He wants to share something.
Two more.
Seperti biasa, meneruskan pertanyaan.
Oh, meneruskan pertanyaan.
Iya nih anak-anak dari media sosial. Dari Massive Abstract.
Apa?
Nama username-nya Massive Abstract.
Massive Abstract.
Iya. Kayaknya ini pertanyaan sebelumnya juga sudah dijawab, tapi kita ulangi aja. Bagaimana pemerintah merumuskan regulasi skema UBI untuk demografi Indonesia yang seluas ini? Jadi mungkin ragu soal negara kita yang besar ini gimana caranya bisa dikasih UBI. Kemudian, tadi ada yang bertanya. Dari Rahmat Puji Purno, dia merasa bahwa diskusi hari ini bagus, cuman dia bertanya bagaimana caranya materi inovatif yang bagus ini dari inovator 4.0 dapat dijadikan kurikulum ekstrakurikuler di sekolah-sekolah. Wah, luar biasa.
Mbak,
ini saya tidak bisa sebuah ngawin nih.
Saya mau boleh mungkin minta opini atau tambahan jawaban. Jadi salah satu pertanyaan tentang kemiskinan. Ya, kemiskinan ya mungkin topik utama saya di sini. Angka kemiskinan kita memang selalu menurun, dan sekarang mungkin kemarin ada isu juga bahwa angka kemiskinan kita sudah 1 digit, jadi sudah lebih baik. Tren penurunannya cepat, namun sekarang jadi melambat, jadi turun tapi lambat gitu. Ada kekhawatiran apakah kita masih punya usaha untuk bisa tetap menurunkan angka kemiskinan, dan bagaimana membantu yang masih dalam kategori rentan miskin. Dengan topik kita hari ini, Universal Basic Income atau Universal Basic Assets, kira-kira apakah bisa menjadi salah satu solusi atau jawaban untuk setidaknya mengamankan, kalau tadi ada survival to resistance, apakah ini bisa menjawab di level resistance itu? Menjawab yang mungkin masih rentan karena jadi ada tren bahwa ini jadi sulit untuk menurunkan angka kemiskinan. Terima kasih.
Saya jawab dari pertanyaan Rohmat ya. Oh begitu ya. About the government regulation, I think we will try to ask Pak Jokowi to implement our recommendation. Even we try to encourage him to use the BOOMDES project as an example, as a prototype of how the business model supposed to be organized in the Revolution 4.0 era, right? Because this social enterprise called BOOMDES, or as everything in urban areas in the near future, is actually combining between the voluntaristic approach and professionalistic approach in dealing with the community-based enterprise. Voluntaristic approach that's become the core value of the community development, and the professionalistic approach that which is the core value of the corporatism. If we can combine between two, I think we can tackle the tensions between the issue of the growth and distribution. This is still abstract, but we have to derive it into the law, regulation. Okay, just put me in the office in the next election. I will do it. Second one is, how can we promote this idea through the education system? It's very interesting. If we haven't yet successfully inserted in the regular ones, maybe we will try to put it in our online education system. We are trying to set up such a what we call Academy Desa or Village Academy. Okay, sorry, it's too heavy to Desa, but okay, we will try to aspire to the city as well. Then we will try to introduce the ideas, maybe from philosophical point of view about how to define work, how to define life, how we treat the new actors of society. It is robot, it is AI robot. Yeah? How can we accept the existence of the presence of robot in our society, and even to some extent regulating or determining our behavior, our societal behavior. This is a very important issue. Itu sih, bisa saya jawab. That's all. Yeah.
Thank you, Mas Brian.
Yes.
Okay, how governments can create UBI policy? I think it's as I said, it's necessary that we as citizens, we as scholars, we as analysts take stock of our current situation and see in what way the current institutions of welfare and social spending are able to cater to the current needs. Whether there is any sync between the current needs, welfare needs, and the current ways of spending. So we need to create a system of spending in a way that it is useful to the people who are vulnerable today. So, for example, in fact, in India, we have been
constantly showing our study and what the study is showing. There's a lot of evidence that this works. So we started constantly analyzing the existing welfare system and saying that this has to be revamped. This has to be regenerated or recreated. That is one. So unless we take stock of the current situation, current spending and the current needs, we will not be able to think of new policies. That is one. So we have to do a lot of homework for that. Now, second question was about poverty reduction tool. Definitely no problem at all. I would have absolutely no problem if we can start with the poorest of the poor, the UBI, and then move ahead to other people. The only problem is that the only issue is, in fact, we are supporting the opposition leaders in India on his program now, giving 20% of the population, which is 250 million people, basic income. Now, the question about the poverty statistics is that I would take every poverty statistics in every country with a pinch of salt. Okay, it's basically statistics. There's a lot of pressure on governments to show that they are performing well in terms of poverty reduction, and there's international pressure on that. Okay, so as a result, the methodologies that are used to show that we are doing well, we know all that. Okay, when you analyze this, but the thing is, people just don't get out of poverty and remain there. People keep falling back into poverty. So there's a gray area. If you say that there are 20% are poor in this country, 80% are okay, it's not correct. That's not the right thing. If you say 20% are really poor, but another 20% are on the fence, like they can fall this way or they can fall that way. Okay? So it's that kind of dynamic situation rather than a static situation. Now the question also we should ask, when you have removed poverty, what kind of measures, sustainable measures you have created to keep people outside poverty? You know, those are the questions we need to ask before we take the statistics so seriously. So that's why if you say that if this is only meant for the poor, we run into those issues. The third issue that we run into is targeting. When you have to target a population, then you have to define what poverty is. Any definition of poverty is very arbitrary. Somebody asked from the online that how do you define basic needs? So the Indonesian government will define basic needs as XYZ and say, okay, 2000 this much calories is enough if people can survive on that. So any definition will be arbitrary. So the whole problem is targeting has its own serious problems. So given all that, given all these difficulties, I would still say it's better to begin somewhere than not begin at all.
Thank you, sir. Mas Yanu, ada lagi yang lain atau Mas Yanu online?
Ada lagi dari yang online? Paul, teman-teman dari UMM. So we have one classes from Sociology Department, University of Muhammadiyah Malang, join us today. But I think they still don't have any question.
Ada satu lagi mas di sini.
Satu lagi.
Okay, go ahead.
Ini kayaknya lucu-lucuan nih, tapi nama akunnya aja Biangkerok.
Biangkerok. Troublemaker.
UBI tidak takut disamakan dengan istilah komunis tuh. Soalnya dia nggak tahu, ini bisa dicek nggak? Apakah di Amerika juga dianggap sebagai program komunisme?
Target selalu.
Media sekarang sudah punya.
Pertanyaan, sekedar pertanyaan.
Tapi kalau dituduh juga nggak apa-apa.
Mangga banget gitu ya.
I think I want to give the maybe silly question. I want to give the crazy idea maybe because talking about the income, once again talking about income in this disruptive era, maybe we must redefine first what is the meaning of income, revenue, and everything. And maybe it is good if we try to redefine income, revenue, and everything, because in this disruptive era we can find the new currency. Data is the new currency. Yeah, follower is new currency. For the millennial, subscriber is new currency. Maybe and if we can define the new currency, we can define the new income. Yeah.
Yes.
Because basic needs for the baby boomers can be different than basic needs for the millennials. Yeah. So if we can find out the new currency, subscriber, follower can be monetized. So it can be income also. So
Experience behavior.
Why not? We must challenge ourselves. The UBI is the new concept, the new idea, how to distribute the idea, how to make it more harmony, living in harmony, and then. But we now in this disruptive era, so many new currency. For the Gojek, currency is about the miles. The kilometer is currency. Yeah. For the Traveloka, one trip is currency. And for the YouTuber, subscriber is currency. So maybe we can define many new currency, so we can define also the basic new basic needs. Thank you very much.
Okay, if you feel that somebody will label you as a communist, I would strongly recommend you read a paper by Philip Wampari and Robert Van somebody. Together they wrote a paper, I think way back in 1995 or even before, called Universal Basic Income, a Capitalist Road to Communism. Yes. So I think that is a very good reading for you, and then you decide whether you want to be labeled or not. Now the other question is about the money. I think there is as part of the basic income movement, you have many actually interrogating the institution of money itself. That who controls money, who produces money, who reproduces money, how it is centralized, and who generates value in the society and who controls that value centrally. I think there's a lot of, in fact, I was about to announce that we are organizing a World Congress on Basic Income in India in August. So we are having one session called Interrogating Money. Yeah. So, in fact, we're getting very interesting people who are working on that. There's a book called Rethinking Money. So, you're actually questioning, that's why when I say let's open all questions, I also mean that let's open the question of what is money, who is producing money, and who is controlling money, and who is generating that value, and all that. Okay. Now, there's also another concept, another person who's going to come and make a presentation in our Congress. He's working on a concept called time money. Time money. For example, we should actually have, in Austria, they are doing a small experiment there in a small community in a village, where I think some of these countries are facing a peculiar demographic issue of large number of senior citizens. Life expectancy has increased. A large number of senior citizens. I think to take care of them, you need a large number of healthcare workers. Okay. So there, for example, when you're in the 50s, you do some work in the community, you don't earn money, currency for that, euros. You earn what is called time coupons. So I work for Raja for 3 hours to do as an assistant to his research work, and he pays me time currency, time money, of 3 hours or 2 hours. Now this I collect over a period of like 5 years or 10 years. And I can use this back when I'm old and invalid. For example, I cannot walk. Somebody has to help me in a wheelchair to go to railway station or to a post office. So the person who volunteers to do this work, I pay them in the time coupon. Rather than give him 10 euros or $10. Now this is a concept that's being developed, that in a country we should have different currencies like that, where you decentralize the creation of value, creation of money. So I think this is all the new thinking that's going on in the world, which is really people appropriating what belongs to
ourselves from Rothschild.
For the gamers, the PUBG gamers, they don't care about the Hungary, as long as I have the point.
Okay. Anyone else? Ada lagi? Mas Yanu?
Yeah. Anyone else have a question from online? Okay. Please, you can.
Yes. No problem. There's one more here.
There is one question from here too.
UNDP not Undip, kan?
No. Yeah, the following program. Is it on? Yeah.
Oh, you did it. Yeah.
Siapa dulu? Ini ada.
Okay.
So what's the first question? Mas Rajiv.
Okay.
Oh, so you can go to that.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for everyone. My name is Tita. I'm a full-time job mom. I'm ready to get benefit from UBI. So that's my simple question for Mr. Budiman and also Mr. Sarat about do our government has been concerned about this idea to implementation about UBI, and if you can give me such a explanation, can you give me a range number from 0 to 10? How many do you think Indonesian ready to make UBI come true? Because I can't wait to get the UBI. So the same question for Mr. Sarat as well. How in India are they ready to make UBI come true? That's a simple question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My question this time is for Sarah. So I hope you haven't raised this idea during your presentations, but my question is about, I understand that India actually did a proper study on UBI and its implementation, and it was included in your state budget 2 years ago or a year ago. So, and then you mentioned earlier how the opposition in India, the current opposition for the next elections, are talking a lot about UBI. So I just want to know more about it, how the issue is being politicized, and also how feasible it is for your country to actually do that. And you mentioned targeting. Are you actually going to do targeting? Do you think that's going to happen? Yeah, so please. Thank you.
Yeah, for the babysitter, the full-time job. As I already described earlier, that actually this idea is very new in Indonesia. Yeah, this idea is quite maybe if there is no controversy yet, because many people not quite understand or comprehend basically or the core message of this issue. I ever tried to write it down in the article in Kompas national newspaper, well-known national newspaper, and there's some discussion, and I make a comparison between UBI and UBA. This is the alternative: UBI, UBS, and UBA. Universal Basic Income, Universal Basic Services, and combining between two is Universal Basic Asset. So Universal Basic Asset is the combination between Universal Basic Income and Universal Basic Services, right? But since it's too luxurious for Indonesian political conversation to talk about this kind of issue, that maybe some people, even some social justice warriors, try to look it down by saying that this is a stretching issue. How this is just peanuts issue. How can you give peanuts for the people, because they claim themselves as the barrier of the people, social justice warrior, and doing little thing actually. But even the so-called activists or progressive, they consider this is just stretching or peanuts issue. How can you liberate or free people by giving them peanuts? Peanuts, yes, billion rupiahs, it's trillion rupiahs. Yeah. But yeah, they're still thinking in such way, And on the other hand, the corporate sectors, they're not quite aware what's really going on. They're not quite aware what's really going on. And the government itself, when I try to propose this idea, also Well, okay, this sounds good, but yeah, okay, let's talk about it. So actually, if you ask me to count from 0 to 10, how many percentage people that Indonesia can accept the ideas? They can accept it not based on their understanding, but they can accept it because it's just give some relief from some people. And on the other hand, maybe it's too good to be true, or it's just like good Samaritan projects, things like that. Charity projects. And yeah, this is the problem. And I try to also propose this idea with some discussion in WhatsApp group with some progressive-minded people, and also libertarian one. That how can you spoil the people by just giving them money and cash? Okay, so UBI as an issue is not so much become the main issue, but yet some people quite define it. Meanwhile, when I propose about the idea of the UBA, almost there's no reaction about it. No reaction about it. No reaction about it. And when I convince them that we are already practicing it through Dana Desa or Village Fund by setting up BUMDes, okay, that's not universal. Yes, still village, but we want to universalize it by expanding it to the cities. Yeah, they are waiting still for this issue. They're still waiting. Which one is better? UBI or UBA? UBI is combination between UBI and UBS, Universal Basic Services.
Okay, first I will address the full-time mom. As a full-time mom, in our society, certain activities are monetized and paid, certain activities are not monetized and unpaid. For example, you being a full-time mom for 2 years, and before that 1 year during your conception, during your pregnancy, do you think you're contributing to the society or you're not contributing to society? Okay? So all the labor that you provide to the society is appropriated without doing any payment, which means the society has learned to steal your labor and not pay you. If unpaid care workers do not do their job at home, you think those who are working in the economy can survive and manage and do? So there is a very serious problem of the unpaid care workers, people who are providing care in our society. We do not compensate them. We do not recognize that what they do is valuable. So that is a serious problem. So UBI somewhere addresses that question and ensures that every citizen is entitled to this. So I think the other question you asked is that how this can become actual concrete proposal, and I combine that with your question about in India what. In India, we did a concrete experiment for 18 months with the support of UNICEF. We conducted an experiment in 9 villages for 6,000 people. We gave a basic income universally in all the 9 villages, universally to all people, to the rich farmer, to the poorest man in the village. It's universal. Now, the results of the study have been extremely encouraging and very positive. Okay. Now, we took these results to bureaucrats, to scholars, to politicians, and initially nobody responded. I think, as Mr. Budiman said, I think the reaction was that this is total nonsense. Why should you give money? First of all, why should you give money free without any work? Why should you give money to the people who are rich? Why should all those various questions are there? That if you give money without any work requirement, people will become lazy and drunkards and blah, 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 and all that, all those questions. But then eventually, one of the bureaucrats, one of the economists in the government of India, he made a proposal, being the chief economic advisor, he made a proposal, and that was present to the parliament,
saying that this may be a good idea to move towards universal basic income. He even proposed that, okay, if we think 1.3 billion is going to be more expensive, why don't we have something called WUBI, what he called WUBI, Women Universal Basic Income, by which you cut the bill into half, give it to all women in the country, irrespective of where. See, from the rich you can always tax it back, that's not the issue at all. The point is universal. So, that was, it was a proposal which came from the government only. Government document is a 45-page document which is there in the public domain. Now, then we thought, okay, after that it died down. Nobody talked about it. Then suddenly, if not in the form of universal, see, the real point about this idea of universal basic income is the unconditionality. Yeah. We have many programs, many universal programs, but nothing unconditional. Everything is in our grammar, current grammar of welfare thinking, everything is conditional. You have to prove that you deserve this particular welfare benefit. Okay? So, unconditionality is what is the most radical part of this proposal of universal basic income. So, some politicians started experimenting with it in India in the last 2 years. And now today we have come to a stage where a national party, the opposition party, is now proposing, and the ruling party is really taken aback by this proposal.
Congress Party.
Yes, Congress Party has proposed now, this will start with 20% population, will give X amount of money, and that's a very good amount of money they are proposing. And how it's going to actually, so the point is to take the idea further. And in some ways, there seems to be something in the concept of UBI that matches the concerns and the issues of the 21st century. That's the reason why it's also attracting